Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to a sort of small video. When my videos are like, I say it'll be small, and then it'll be 40 minutes long, but whatever, bear with me. I'm basically making a video that is discussing the topic of paid-for mods, because everyone and their mums at the moment are posting comments to me and stuff asking me, what do you think about it, and I figure it's easier just to put a video out there than to reply to every single comment individually. So basically this is my take on the subject, what is about to follow. So without further ado, first thing I'd like to say is that, full disclosure, I am in not much of a position to argue against this. Let's be honest. What I do, essentially for a living at the moment, not that I make a lot of money doing it, mind you, but what I do for a living is I make YouTube videos and I get paid for doing that. This is something which only a few years ago was really just kind of considered a thing people would do for free as a hobby on YouTube, and indeed there are still YouTubers who quite passionately believe that that should still be the case and would never dream of accepting money for what they do. But that's what I do. I have taken something that was a hobby and I've made a living out of it. It paid my way through university, and I have no, misgivings about that, no regrets about that. I can't, thank my lucky stars that I'm able to do what I love doing and actually get paid to do it. But this obviously doesn't put me in much of a position to turn around to a mod maker, for example, who wants to get paid to make his mods and tell him, oh, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's not on. That's get a proper job. I can't say that, can I? Really, being in the position I'm in. So I thought I'd make that clear from the get-go. At the end of the day, there is no such thing as a proper job. A proper job is anything that you do that gets you a paycheck at the end of the day. So I sometimes joke about not having a proper job, but like I say, there's no such thing ultimately, especially in this day and age. Welcome to the 21st century, guys. You can do almost anything on the internet and get paid for it these days. So anyway, paid mods then. For people who don't really understand the topic anyway, I'll go over it briefly. As you can see here, I've got my Steam browser up. Valve have basically introduced a thing to the Steam Workshop now whereby people can host mods on the Steam Workshop, which are essentially third-party plugins for the game that you can pay for. I say you can pay for them. You pretty much have to pay for them if you want to use them. They are behind a paywall for all intents and purposes. There's a few of them here, which have obviously already been put together prior to this going live. Because they already have a bundle set up so you can buy all of them, and yeah, if you want to use these mods you have to pay for them. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different ones. They range in price by a fair bit. Some of them are a mere 17 pence, which is almost, in dollars that's probably even less, ranging up to, let's see, what have we got here? What's the most expensive one? This one, $3.99. That's getting fairly expensive. These all have a pay what you want kind of a deal with them. By the way, this is the minimum you have to pay in order to have it. You can pay more if you want to, which is interesting. What I will say first and foremost, just to nip the obvious in the bud, the easiest way to solve this entire thing would ultimately be to, as you can see here, look, you go here, you've got £0.17, and you can go all the way up and pay as much as you want, up to like 66 quid. Good grief, who on earth would do that for this? But, yeah. The obvious thing, which I'm sure plenty of people have pointed out, I have to agree, is that the best thing to do would simply to be an added 0 button at the bottom, and allow people to pay nothing for it, or pay what they want for it. And that would really be ultimately the simplest and most commonsensical thing to do, but you know what they say about common sense, it's not terribly common. Yeah, That would obviously remove the paywall, and this would become a donation thing as opposed to a paid for thing, which is slightly different, I will grant you, but it would piss off far fewer people. And the fact that being able to give a donation in this fashion is made so much easier just by having the button right there, I think a lot more people would do it. Just a thought, but anyway, that's not really what we're discussing right now, because that's clearly probably not going to happen, so it's irrelevant. Anyway, this is the setup. So the first thing that's worth pointing out is that this is not a new thing. It's a new thing with regards to Skyrim mods, yeah, sure, certainly, in the Steam Workshop, but paid for mods as a general thing have existed for years. You may not be familiar with them because it's very often restricted to very specific genres and things like that. I, for those that don't know, play a lot of flight sims in my spare time, and in the world of flight simulators, third-party community-made expansions and mods and things that you pay for, payware mods essentially is what they're called, or payware expansions, that is not a new thing. Those have been around for a very long time. There's lots of mods like that. Just to pick an example off the top of my head, something like Over Flanders Fields, which is a World War One total conversion mod for Combat Flight Simulator 3 that you pay for as a separate game, but you also have to own the original CFS3 in order to play it. That is a normal thing that has been around for ages. One of the newest simulators out there, DCS World, for example, that functions entirely on a basis of pretty much all the content is provided by third-party developers, who are really just ultimately glorified modding teams, essentially, who provide third-party modules for the game, which are then added to the game, and that's what the game is made up of. It's made up of all these different modules. So this is not a new thing, and for those of you who come from a similar background to me and are into that kind of thing, this will not really shock or horrify you in the way it has a lot of people. I look at this and I think, it was probably only a matter of time, because this has existed for ages now. And let's face it, Skyrim mods are probably one of the biggest modding communities out there. So I'm not surprised this has happened, and I'm not horrified by it either, frankly. But anyway, ultimately this comes down, I think, for me, fundamentally, in a belief that I think people deserve to be paid for their hard work. That's just a core belief of mine. If someone does loads of hard work and puts their heart and soul into something and puts it out there for the public, they deserve to be paid for it if they want to be paid for it. If they want to say, hey, look, I've made this awesome thing, all I'm asking for it is like $1 or a couple of dollars. I think they are more than entitled to say, to ask for that. A lot of people make the argument that, mods have always been a free thing. This is blasphemy. This is sacrilege. You cannot start asking for money for mods. As I've already explained, people have been doing that for ages anyway, and also, more often than not, people haven't been asking for money for mods simply because they can't. They haven't been able to. I'd go on a limb and say most game publishers and developers don't even allow mods for their games, and even if they do, it's sort of non-officially supported in the way that it is with Bethesda. Bethesda are very sort of an exception rather than the rule in that respect. And previously, people haven't been allowed or haven't been able to monetize their mods when it comes to things like Elder Scrolls games. That doesn't necessarily mean that people didn't want to monetize it if they could have, I mean, the number of times you see people say, or previously saw people say, when they came across big, awesome quest mods and things like that, like Falscar, for example, and said, God damn, I pay money for this, I'd pay, this is better than a Bethesda-made expansion, that kind of thing, without realizing that actually one day maybe they would have to pay for it, People are quite happy to say that sort of thing until people sort of start asking for actual money, putting your money where your mouth is, as the phrase goes. But so I do believe that people should be able to ask to be paid for the work they do. I get paid for the work I do. and some of the comments people have made on the mod pages, in forums, on YouTube videos and stuff are frankly disgusting. The attitude some people seem to have towards these guys who make these mods it kind of horrifies me in a way. Actually, it's kind of destroys your faith in humanity type stuff. I don't really want to quote any examples, frankly, because it's disgusting. I don't want to air it on mic, frankly. And this is coming from someone who swears all the time in his videos, so just, But suffice to say, I am a little bit taken aback by actually just how venomous the backlash to some of this has been, and certain individuals and certain posts I've read have really made me be ashamed. It made me feel ashamed to be even tangentially associated with these kind of people, simply by virtue of the fact that we play the same games. It's really just gobsmacking, actually, the way people have approached this. So, anyway, less said about that, the better, I suppose. But still, if someone walked up to me and said, you know what, you shouldn't be allowed to be paid to make your YouTube videos, buddy, I think it's wrong. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. I would tell them in so many words to go fuck themselves, frankly. And the restraint some of these modders, I think, have shown in not going completely berserk at these assholes who are just attacking them. Hands off to you guys. You're more patient men than I. So anyway, if you're going to be angry with anyone, though, here's the thing: be angry with Valve. This is like 99% their idea in the first place. And they're the ones who are being the real greedy bastards here, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. They're asking for, with each of these with each copy of these mods that are sold, 75% of that, I believe, is the figure, goes to Valve and or Bethesda. Bethesda, you can argue for them taking a cut of it, sure. I mean, it's their game after all. If they want to provide a paid-for mod service for their game, then yeah, I suppose they should get a cut of it after all. That makes sense, right? But, Valve taking such a huge portion away from the modders who have done all the hard work is just that sleazy, frankly. I think that's really sleazy and really greedy of them, and that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, frankly, the way they've approached that. I think that's just evil. I mean, look how little some of these things are costing. 30 pence, 17 pence. What's 75% of 17 pence, I mean, come on. Well, anyway. People are not going to be making a fortune off some of this stuff, I can tell you that for certain right now. And the Steam Workshop, frankly, is a rubbish platform for modding anyway. I think anyone who does any extensive modding of Skyrim will tell you that. All the good mods are on Nexus. Well, most of the good mods are on Nexus. There are a few that are still on the Steam Workshop, but frankly, I don't use them because the Steam Workshop is such a clunky and irritating way of installing mods and using them. Even if you're using Mod Organizer, like I do at the minute, you can manage to install Steam Workshop mods through that, but it's very convoluted and irritating and complicated, and as a result, I just don't bother to do it. So this is almost a non-issue for me anyway, because anything that comes up on here I won't be buying simply because I cannot be asked to install it. So the Steam Workshop is just naff, frankly, in my honest opinion. I don't like it. I think it's a bit rubbish. So bear that in mind, guys. And the thing is, you say, well, maybe it'll spread to Nexus. Well, the thing is, maybe it will. Yeah, maybe it won't, though. I don't know if Nexus are even in a position to be able to do that. I mean, the only reason this has been done is because Valve are a big, gigantic company. They own Steam. They own the Steam Workshop. They are in a position to put a scheme like this forward. I don't know if the Nexus really are, or even if Bethesda are willing to, make a deal with Nexus, with the way they have with Valve on this. So, I mean, as far as Bethesda are concerned, the Steam Workshop is their officially sanctioned way of installing mods. I don't think Bethesda, I mean, quote me if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, I believe that Bethesda don't officially support the Nexus or Mod Organizer or Nexus Mod Manager or any of those kind of tools at all, as far as they're concerned. So, Anyway, I'm going to choose to look at this as a positive thing mostly. I'm hoping that what this could potentially mean is that we will actually see more big mods, more big quest mods and expansions like Foul Sky I've already mentioned, Worm's Tooth, that kind of thing. The kind of mods that take hundreds and thousands, in some cases, hours to make, and that get a ridiculous amount of work put into them. Those are the kind of mods that they're absolutely worth their weight in gold. They are absolutely worth their weight in gold. If you think about it, there are games that I've bought on Steam sales that, for like 10 quid or 15 quid in some cases, that I've maybe played for like an hour at most, and then I've just shelved them and never really touched them again. But then you take mods for Skyrim and think about how many hundreds of hours you've spent playing the game as a result of those mods. Some of those are really, in terms of your time, if nothing else, are more valuable than half the games you probably own. It's certainly the case for me, anyway. So, when you're thinking about things like price and value and worth, try and bear that in mind a bit. I think. Obviously, if these things are getting paid for now, and you're actually supporting the makers of them directly by just giving them a price and actually forking over some cash to do it, ultimately it means that they can potentially start doing this full time. I think that's the ultimate positive idea behind all this, and that's what all this hinges on, really, whether it's going to be a success or not. Whether it makes enough money for modders for them to be able to start doing this full time, all the time, and start making really awesome, high quality mods of just a better quality in general, and in more quantity and more often. That's the ultimate goal here. But this kind of already happens, I think, in other places, because there are instances, I think, in other games where modders have gone to something like Patreon, and people support them through Patreon to make mods for their games, and thus are able to do it full time that way as well. So I think that would be really cool if you take the guys who made stuff like Worm's Tooth or Foul Scar or whatever, and you pay them a paycheck full time. And you say to them, right, okay, here's your money, go and make more things like this full time, all 7 days a week or whatever. Ultimately, I think that's really fucking awesome. That's really, really great, and I hope that's the case, frankly, because I really want to see more mods of that kind. As for the other stuff, well, like these, for example, what can I say? I'd never buy them. I can't imagine most people would. Many people have drawn the comparison to the Horse Armor DLC that Bethesda put out there, and you're quite right. They're absolutely on the money with that. That's essentially what it is. It's just community-made, paid-for horse armor, ultimately, and it's worthless, frankly. It's just... They're very pretty, some very nice hard work has gone into these, but it's just a weapon or a suit of armor at the end of the day. It's not in the same ballpark as a lot of other mods. It's just not. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. I mean, this is all. This is a market now. Money is being traded for these things. Therefore, it's ultimately a kind of free market that's going on here. So, like what happened with the horse armor, where just people didn't buy the fucking thing, people won't buy these fucking things either. And ultimately, if the modders want anyone to use them, then they're just going to have to provide them for free, or just not provide them at all. I mean, that's the hilarious thing about all this. People are sort of causing such a stink about it, and they're making petitions, and they're doing all sorts of things. Like, oh no, Steam, get rid of this. No, it's evil. Make it stop. But the thing is, if you want it to stop, just don't buy anything on the Steam Workshop. It's that simple. It's a free fucking market. That's how it works. If nobody buys these things, then the whole scheme just comes to an end. It doesn't, if just everyone gets together and just says, right, okay, we're not going to buy any of these, then, yeah, Valve will just shut it down because they're not making a profit on it, are they? So, it's quite simple, really. If you don't like it, then just don't use it. And, if enough people don't like it and don't use it, then there's no longer a problem. So... bear that in mind as well, guys, before you fly off the handle. So yeah, I mean, people keep saying, "Oh, there's going to be loads of crappy mods now because people are going to be trying to make a fast buck or whatever." And yeah, there'll be mods like that. I've no doubt. Never underestimate how low the human race will sink in order to make a fast buck. Let's be honest here. I tend to be a bit of an optimist about these things, but it's true. But like I said, it'll just get treated like horse armor. People won't buy these things if they're just crap, and they've obviously been made for it to get a fast buck. They will just not buy them. And if you do buy something and it turns out to be rubbish, then you can get your refund. And I heartily encourage you to leave a review or whatever in the comments saying this mod is terrible. Do not buy it. It's not worth your money. So, what else can I add really? What I can say is that on Valve's part, this has been a bit of a disaster, really. They could not have done this worse. I'm still... It makes my blood boil that they take 75% of the money from this. I mean, what? Just bastards, frankly. Anyway. But the initial selection of mods they put up is a bit meh, to be honest with you. It's either horse armory type things, or it's, new versions of mods that already exist for free elsewhere, like I Need here and Wet and Cold. I mean, look at this one, for example, this shadow scale set, right? It's very pretty, it looks very good, it's a very nice suit of armor, don't get me wrong. Look, they've got nice concept art and everything, yes, da-di-da-di-da. But you are paying £1.35 for a suit of armor, which only works on male characters, by the way, that you have to access the console to actually use. Yeah, seriously, though, you're paying £1.35 for a suit of armor that you can only use if you're a male character, and you want to use the console to acquire it. I mean, come the fuck on. Release this for free. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? This is when you start charging for money for these things. You need that people get higher expectations for what you're actually providing to them. If this was provided for free on the Nexus, fair enough. Yeah, okay. So, new free suit of armor looks pretty cool. I need to use the console to get it for now, but that's alright then. It's no skin off my nose. But you ask £1.35 of people for something you have to use the console to get, that's different, isn't it? That's just sloppy and unprofessional, and should not be available for purchase in that state, in my honest opinion. They've said coming soon, a mini quest and a female version of the armor. Why is this coming soon? Why is this not here now? If it's not ready yet, then why have you put it up for purchase? If it's not ready yet, if it's not finished, guys, come on. Whatever. That's something that's obviously going to affect the modders. I mean, you've got to look at the modders side of this. They have gone from basically providing freeware, which is provided as is, and you essentially use it at your own risk. And you're not paying money for it, so the only problems it's going to cause for you is maybe, worst case scenario, you have to reinstall your game or something because it broke something, and then you can rage at them in the comments or whatever. And tell people not to download it, and they'll probably fix it at some point, and, it's fine. But they've gone from, just being hobbyists providing, freeware to developers providing third-party content, well, products, really. They're making products, and they're selling them to the public, and their fan base or user base is now transformed to a customer base, which is an entirely different prospect altogether. One of the things I really don't like about this whole setup is the whole, you only get 24 hours and for your refund, and then after that you're fucked. That's it. So if you get a mod which, you play it and you install it and you're like, okay, and you figure out maybe a week down the line that it causes something like save game bloating or something horrible like that, it has loads of bad conflicts, it's just generally not fit for purpose, there's nothing you can do. And on the FAQ for this, Steam basically advise you comment politely on the mod page and ask that the mod maker look into it for you. I mean, is that your recourse as a paying customer, to just ask them politely to fix it for you, and they may or may not do so? I mean, come on. Jesus Christ, guys! If this was an expansion for an official expansion made by a professional developer for a game, and it was part of it was broken, you bet your ass they'd patch it right the fuck away, because their customers are entitled to that, and if not, they can get a refund whenever they bloody well please. Well, maybe not if they bought it from Steam, because Valve, as we know, have terrible customer service, which is another reason why it made this it seems like a terrible idea in this particular instance. I mean, of all the people that could have brought this scheme out in the first place, Jesus, Valve would not be my first choice. I mean, I'd pick someone like GOG or even the Nexus themselves if possible to front us, put forward a scheme like this. Not fucking Valve, Jesus Christ. But I mean, good grief, how long is it going to be until we have mod sales like we do regular Steam sales and early access mods, and perish the thought. But anyway, yeah, that's probably my main concern with the whole thing. My main criticisms are not with the fact that the mods are being paid for in the first place. I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with, having to pay maybe a $5 or a $10 or something, or maybe even 15 quid or something for say Falscar. I'm fine, whatever. I'll give you a tenner for Frostfall. That's a mod I would probably not bother to play Skyrim anymore without. Yeah, that's worth 10 quid to me, frankly. If not more. I don't have a problem with that. If these guys want to get paid for their hard work, then yeah, I'm cool with that, frankly. If you can't afford to buy it, then get a job, to coin a phrase. Hell, make a mod yourself and sell that. Maybe you'll get some money that way, I don't know. But my main criticisms of this, as I say, are not that. It's not that side of things at all. It's the Valve customer service side of things. One other thing people have brought up is the fact that there are conflicts and, requirements and interdependencies with mod, like you need certain things installed, like SKSE, for example, in order for some mods to work and that kind of thing. I think people are making a bigger deal out of that than it needs to be. The modders will sort that out amongst themselves eventually. If anything, this might encourage modders to actually make their mods more standalone and more neatly packaged. I.e., you don't have to download 6 different utilities and mods and programs and things in order for their mod to work. It'll hopefully be a case where their mod will actually work straight out of the box, which I think is personally I think is a good thing, actually. Presumably they will also have to provide compatibility patches where necessary. That's another thing. Obviously if they're charging money for this, then they need to get off their asses and make lots of compatibility patches for all sorts of stuff. They can't just be lazy and not bother, So that's the other thing. But that you can look at that as a good thing as well, really. The fact that they're getting paid means that they're not going to be as lazy. It means that they are actually going to get off their asses and they're going to patch things and make sure it's all in working order and make sure that it's compatible and all that kind of thing. The overall quality, I'm hoping, as a result of this, will go up because modders will feel obliged, one would hope, for the good mods anyway. Obviously, the junk mods you're not going to want anyway. But for the good mods, there's obviously going to be an obligation now for them to actually make sure it all does work and it is all up to standards. So I'm choosing to look at that in a sort of semi-positive light anyway. That's the way I'm interpreting it. But anyway, so yeah, to sum up, basically, yeah, you may need to pay for some mods in the future. I don't think you're going to have to pay for all of them. I think there are going to be plenty of modders out there who will refuse to charge for their mods just out of principle, if nothing else. But yeah, you may have to pay for some mods in the future. I do not have a problem with this, personally. The concept of paying for mods does not offend me in any way. I think that it's not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. I do think the Valve side of things is not so good. The way they have implemented this and the complications inherent in the way that Skyrim modding in particular works, and Valve's customer service, that's the kind of stuff that really makes me worried, and that's the kind of stuff that I feel is a cause for concern. Not the fact that you have to pay for this in and of itself at all. Yeah. That's how I look at it in a nutshell. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, or / listening. And there you go. That's my opinion on the whole subject, because everyone kept asking. So feel free to argue now in the comments, or whatever it is you guys want to do. Try and keep it civil, but there's almost no point in me saying that, because any time a YouTuber says try and be polite and keep it civil, and imagine you were talking to them face to face as opposed to via text on the internet, no one listens. So there's almost no point in bothering. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you again soon.